Xbox wants you to be lazier. Is this trade-in offer too good to pass up? The digital Series X rumors are back with a vengeance. Let's discuss. What's up, guys, and welcome to Xbox Ready. I'm back here yet again to make sure that you are up to date on all the latest Xbox news going on in the world right now. Or in other words, to make sure that you
are Xbox Ready.
If you're watching my channel for the first time, first of all, welcome. If you like the content, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. I also have links below the video to all sorts of Xbox stuff if you're looking to buy things like that. If you use those links, it goes a long way in helping out the channel. So is it time to trade your Xbox Series X for a PlayStation 5? That's probably the last thing that you were expecting to hear me say. This guy Meteor Boy posted to the PS5 subreddit, citing a promotion that GameStop is currently holding for their Pro members, wherein if you trade in a new console, you will get $50 towards a PlayStation 5. He even goes on to say that even if you aren't a Pro member, you will be after you take advantage of this deal, apparently. So according to his math, the current trade-in value for an Xbox Series X is $385. And when combined with that $50 bonus towards a PS5, that's $435. And if you haven't put two and two together yet, that is more than enough to buy a digital PlayStation 5. This also apparently applies to the Xbox One S and the Series S because he does the math in the same post. You'll get $138 for your Xbox One S and $242.50 for trading in your Xbox Series S. He ends the post by saying you can trade in multiple consoles, a Series S, a Series X, and get the bonus for each one. So, should you do it? Should you trade in your Xbox Series X for a PlayStation 5? Now, I'm sure this is probably the point where you're expecting me to put on my console fanboy hat, my console war gear, and tell you all the reasons why you should not take advantage of this deal. But to be completely honest, I don't really care that much. You should do what is best for you, man, and I think that way in not just gaming, but in all aspects of life. If you have a Series X and you are not happy with it, or a Series S and you really want to try the PlayStation 5 for whatever reason, you should go for it. And certainly if this deal was around back last generation, I totally would have taken advantage of it. There was a point with my Xbox One where I just got sick of it. I hit a hard wall. For two reasons. Number one, the majority of my friends had PlayStation 4s. And back then, there weren't a lot of cross-platform titles, so I couldn't really play any games with them. Number two, as we all know, the PlayStation 4 way outclassed the Xbox One in terms of quality first-party exclusives. And at the time, I really wanted to play Spider-Man on PS4, God of War. I wanted to play The Last of Us 2, so I was really wanting to get a PS4 last generation, even if it meant getting rid of my Xbox One. But financially, it just did not make sense, so I stood with what I had. I did not do it. And even if you traded in your Xbox, whether it's a Series X or S, we know that that's not the only way to play Xbox games. If you got a PS5 and maybe saved up a little money for, I don't know, a PC or even a Steam Deck, you can play all of the Xbox games on that. You can cover pretty much all of your bases if you had a PC, a PlayStation 5, and a Nintendo Switch. Now, I personally would not take advantage of this deal. That's just me, though. That's just me. I'm not telling you what to do. For me, the majority of my playtime is on my Xbox Series X. But my PS5 over there gets booted up just every so often when there's really a game that I want to play that I can't play on PC or Xbox, which is, I guess, quite often. But before I beat Final Fantasy 16 on this thing, I hadn't booted up my PlayStation 5 in a very long time. Not since God of War Ragnarok, I think. I wonder just how many people are going to take advantage of this deal. Because be aware, there are some pretty big exclusives coming up for Xbox in just the next couple of months. Starfield's coming out in September, and Forza Motorsport is followed right behind that. Turns out to be a banger, and you're like, oh man, I wish I could continue. I wish I could have played Starfield. I wish I didn't trade my Xbox away. This video is brought to you by World of Warships Legends. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, today's sponsor has turned me into the captain of my very own ship. Well, I guess this is more like a pirate hat and not necessarily like what I'm going for, but y'all get the picture. World of Warships Legends is a free-to-play MMO that puts you in the middle of your very own epic naval battles. Jump in on your Xbox and join over the 8 million players as you fight for dominance of the sea. World of Warships Legends also supports crossplay too, so your friends or your enemies over on the PlayStation side can join in as well. There are literally hundreds of ships to take charge of, with more being added on a regular basis. Each one hails from one of 11 nations and has unique capabilities, whether it be a cruiser, a destroyer, a battleship, a freaking aircraft carrier. For example, you pick the battleship, yes, it's really cool looking, it's impressive, but it's got a slow turn radius, and it takes a long time to reload their guns, so even though they have a lot of firepower, if you miss, it's like, ooh, you're kind of in trouble. You gotta give some thought to this, you gotta be strategic. Yes, it's packed with action, but you gotta use your noggin, you gotta use your brains a little bit. I learned super quick that there are few things worse than focusing fire on an enemy cruiser, only to turn around and see that there are 6 torpedoes just on their way to annihilate your hull, and then realizing, oh, I'm in the middle of an enemy ambush, I played right into their hands, dang it! But there's always new strategies, new loadouts, and new team compositions to always keep things fresh, and there's regular content updates as well. If you've never played World of Warships Legends, or you're taking a break and you want to jump back in, download the game and use the code 23XBoxLegends for some cool free stuff. Or you can use the link below down in the description. Thanks again to World of Warships Legends for sponsoring this video. Of course, there is a scenario where you hold on to that Xbox, you play Starfield, and you don't like it, and you're like, oh, I should have taken advantage of that deal. Again, the ball is in your court. If you're choosing to hang on to your Xbox console, you probably are just waiting around to see how these next round of exclusives are going to go for them. Starfield, Motorsport, freaking Avowed, everything that's coming out in 2024, hopefully Stalker 2 as a timed exclusive. But again, that's a bet on the future, and betting on the future can be very, very scary, especially because Xbox has been kind of up and down this generation and last generation. Sure, Xbox Game Studios won Publisher of the Year in 2021, thanks to games like Microsoft Flight Simulator, Psychonauts 2, Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, but then 2022 came around and it was like, what's going on, man? There's not much happening here. And then 2023 came around, started off with a bang, boom, high five rush. And then a couple months later, we were like, oh, what's gonna go on with Redfall? And we all know what went on with Redfall. Versus when you look at PlayStation, at least they're consistent. Here is my opinion about this though, and you can take it or leave it. There's certainly gonna be a lot of people calling me an Xbox fanboy, whatever. But as a reminder, I own all platforms. I mentioned that I have a PlayStation 5, I got my Xbox, I got PC, I got Nintendo Switch. Only thing I'm not rocking with is like the Steam Deck, and that's not really a platform, I guess. In my personal opinion, PlayStation, Sony, they are kind of resting on the laurels of what they did last generation. Because what we've seen from them this generation has just been kind of like minor tweaks on what they did with the PlayStation 4. All of their flagship games like God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West have just been more refined versions of what came out on the PlayStation 4. And yes, I thoroughly enjoy God of War Ragnarok, but it's like, okay, we're seeing a lot of the same maps from the last game, we're seeing a lot of the same mechanics. Again, they're just more refined and just a little bit better. PlayStation always gets praise for its first-party exclusives. And for the most part, yes, that has been true, but not because PlayStation has been doing exceptionally well with their first-party output. They're just doing well compared to Xbox, and their output is like nothing or like a little bit. The bar is not too high in that department. PlayStation 4 era, they had a ton of exclusives that Xbox did not have. So long story short, if you want to trade in your Xbox for a PlayStation 5, I ain't gonna stop you. But as someone who owns a PlayStation 5, it's not all like roses and happy times over on PlayStation 5. On the other end, you could trade in your Xbox for a PlayStation 5, and apparently you can wait until around 2025 if you really want an Xbox again. You may be able to pick up a digital Series X. Now, I have long talked about a discless Series X, a digital X, for a while, made a couple of videos about it. Oh, it'd be really cool if they made one. But then Xbox leadership kind of threw a wet blanket over that line of thinking for me when they came out and they were like, okay, first of all, we have the Series S. We're gonna make a black one. We're gonna give it a full terabyte of storage. And also, we're not interested in making a mid-gen refresh. We're fine with the hardware that we have right now, and we're gonna stick with it. But I was listening to Xbox Era the other day, and none other than Special Nick mentioned that Microsoft is considering a digital Series X. And when you look at Game Rant, they wrote up an article about this specific thing that was said by Special Nick. And they say, rumors suggest that the said Digital Edition Series X, along with other hardware, is being targeted for a 2025 release. Now, as much as I want to believe that there's a new Xbox coming out, or like a redone version of the consoles that we have now, and as much as I love Xbox Era, I love Special Nick, I've been burned by Special Nick rumors before. I've gotten all riled up about him and talked about him on this channel, only to have that not be the case, whatever it may be. So I'm taking this with a grain of salt for a couple of reasons. Again, Special Nick's been doing this for a while, he knows a lot of people, so he's probably gonna know more about this than me. But it just seems like very weird timing. Xbox leadership, as I was mentioning earlier, just came out and said, we are not interested in a mid-gen refresh, we want to stick with the consoles that we have, it's not the feedback that we're getting, is what they were saying. Then Digital Foundry took it a step further, and they were like, yeah, Xbox leadership told us that the Series X was the mid-gen refresh. That was like their version of a Pro Xbox, and the Series S was like their standard version. So I'm conflicted, that's all I'm gonna say, I'm conflicted. I don't know who to believe in this scenario. 2025 for new consoles would make sense for release, and I always thought it was kind of weird that Xbox wouldn't be interested in making any other Xboxes or a mid-gen refresh, considering that Sony, it's looking like they're gonna come out with a PlayStation 5 Pro and Slim model. And on top of that, I don't know how a digital Series X would fit into this lineup, because the way I'm thinking about it is if you release a digital Series X, it has to be $400, right? Because that is the price of a digital PS5. But they just released an Xbox Series S for $350, the Black Series S with the full terabyte. It just seems like weird timing. Like, I'm not mad that the Black Series S exists. I would just be confused as to why Xbox would release that and then a couple of years later do a digital Series X, unless they were thinking about maybe phasing out support for the Series S, but no, they would never do that. That's crazy. You also got a problem, it's like, there's just too many Xboxes out there, man. Last week, I talked about my friend Brian, who was thinking he was gonna buy a Series S, but actually bought an Xbox One S. Now you're telling me that you're potentially gonna add a fourth console into that, white Series S, black Series S, digital Series X, regular Series X. It's like, it's too many units out there, man. And Special Nick didn't just mention digital X. He also mentioned other hardware, so are we getting a Pro version of the X? I don't know, it's just too crazy. There's too many SKUs out there. All we can do is just wait until 2025, I guess, or closer to 2025. That will be way beyond the console's halfway mark in terms of its life cycle, and it'll be interesting to see how Xbox handles the latter half of this generation going into the next one, if this rumor ends up being true. Next up, Xbox is testing out a new feature in the Insider program that will essentially eliminate the need of the sync button that you can find on your console. If you've owned an Xbox over the past couple of years, you know how it goes. If you want to pair a new controller to your console, you hit the sync button on top of your controller, and then you hit the sync button on your Xbox. It goes bloop, 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 and then it's done. Well, Tom Warren over at The Verge shared a video on his Twitter account, or X account, God, I keep messing it up, demonstrating this new thing that basically makes it obsolete to do any of that. The way it apparently works, according to his video, is that it's all done through the accessories app on your Xbox. This is where you go to if you want to mess around with your controller settings, or if you have an Elite Series controller, you can change the color on your guide button. You can test out different configurations. But now with this, it's like, okay, you can use a controller that is already paired, go into the accessories app, and there's going to be a new option that just says connect a device. And then once you click on it, it says, what do you want to connect? An Xbox controller, an Xbox adaptive controller, or a new headset, a wireless headset. And then once you choose what you're going to connect, it'll do the whole process, connect whatever device you're trying to pair without the need for you to get up and actually physically walk over to the console. This is equal parts cool and equal parts funny. Like, I could see this being very useful if, I don't know. It's cool, but it's like, dang. Like, I'm already feeling like pretty lazy by sitting in a chair or sitting on a couch and playing video games. And now you're telling me like the one physical act that I need to do in order to pair a new controller, like we're just gonna eliminate that? I could do that from my couch as well. Again, this is a feature that is being tested out in the Again, this is a feature being tested out in the Xbox Insider program. So if you're not a part of that and you're not a part of what I assume are the upper tiers, you are not going to be able to see this feature for yourself. But if they're testing it, we can assume that they're going to roll it out to all Xbox consoles in a couple of months. As I've mentioned many times before, the next installment in Bethesda's long and storied history of making great RPGs, Starfield, is just around the corner. Last video I talked about how you can go and play Starfield as early as September 1st. You don't have to wait until the 6th. That's if you have the Premium Edition upgrade either through Xbox or you bought the Premium Edition bundle outright. But for those of you wanting to preload Starfield or at least download it as soon as possible, you might have to do a little bit of prep work because they released the file size and it's pretty dang big. Not the biggest, but pretty dang big. It's 125 gigabytes on both PC and Xbox. If that's like intimidating for you, if you're like, dang, I live in an area where the internet connection and the service is just terrible, so I need to download this as soon as possible, there's been signs that preloading Starfield could begin as early as this week on August 8th. If you're looking to upgrade your storage space as well, remember we have a couple of different options when it comes to expandable storage cards. Of course, the Seagate ones are still there, but we have a new player on the block from Western Digital Black. For $89, you can grab a 512 gigabyte card. That should be more than enough to support Starfield and a couple of other games if you're running low on space. But yeah, that's just a quick tip from me. If you don't want to go that route, you can delete a couple of games off of your Xbox, or you can move some of your games to an external hard drive in preparation for the big launch. Anyways, guys, that's all the news I have for today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready, and we'll see you in the next video.